Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fin Addicts Miami Dolphins podcast on the Fin Addicts Network, hosted by me, of course, the legendary Savak. So we are here doing our post-game wrap-up of the Miami Dolphins at New England Patriots. They outrushed us 217 yards to 87, picked off Fitztragic 3 times, going on to win 21-11. I'm also joined by my co-host, Brian. How you feeling, man?
I've been better, man. Not too excited with the outcome today, but excited to be on the podcast with you guys. It's only week 1, not the end of the world. Last year, what did we lose? We got shut out 43-0 in our second game to the Patriots. At
least that one was fun to watch.
So we did a little better, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you know what? It is nice to be back on with you guys, though. You guys are probably the only thing keeping me sane right now. How about you, Jason? How you feeling?
Not as sane as you are, but, happy to be joining you fellas. Happy for our guest, and we'll get into all the pros and the cons a little later, but we'll chat. We'll chat.
And, of course, last but not least of our team, Drew, how are you feeling?
Feeling okay. Planning a trip to the grocery store. I need some more Kleenex. Rough game to watch. But at least it was not 59-0.
I hope those are sad Kleenex and not another type of Kleenex.
Definitely not after that game.
No, I couldn't imagine so. But, of course, that takes us to our very special guest. We are honored to welcome from the Hochman and Crowder show on 560 The Joe, Alejandro Solona. If you do not live in South Florida, you can catch the show live on radio.com or listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Solana, how you doing, bro?
I'm not great. I'm glad Drew said it though. At least this wasn't 63-0, right? Like I think there's some positive. You guys are all down. Like I'm feeling a little positive today. My biggest takeaway today wasn't, oh, here we go again. I'm not ecstatic, but I'm down for a couple Kleenexes. The first part mentioned, not the latter part. And again, it wasn't 63-0. Like that's my biggest takeaway from today. Or what was it? 48-10 or whatever week 1 was last year,
which was just absolutely awful. So you know what? I do like that silver lining. So I guess before we dive into it a little bit more, though, can you tell us where else maybe our listeners can find you if you're working on anything else outside of that show?
Yeah, definitely. So, well, first and foremost, I do produce the Miami Dolphins football game broadcast. So 9 a.m. to it pretty much goes until 8 p.m. on Sunday game days that start at 1. The Miami Dolphins pregame show with Chris Whittingham and Channing Crowder. I put all that stuff together, and I think today was a really good broadcast. I know people don't love Jimmy Cephalo, and they don't love the actual game broadcast, but the pregame show and the postgame show, check it out. I think people really enjoy it. I host the Dolphins Rewind show 8 a.m. on 560 The Joe as well. And if you want to get caught up before game day, obviously listen to this podcast. But that's another way that if you're in your car or you want to listen on the radio.com app, that's something that you can do as well. That's where you can check me out. Twitter, Instagram, Alex M. Solana.
That leads me to 2 questions, Alejandro. First, how did Jason Taylor do in his debut?
I think he did really well. And I know people like to get on Bob Greasy. He's a Dolphins legend, so I don't like to poke too much fun at old Bob. But I think Jason Taylor did a really good job. He has a future in broadcasting. We knew that, right, from his ESPN days or whatever. But I think he did really well. And it's only game 1. It's a weird setup. They're in the studio, social distance. There's plexiglass in between him and Joe Rose and Jimmy Cephalo. So it's a very unique setup, unprecedented times, obviously. But for given the circumstances, I think he did really well.
Second question, I like to listen to the pregame on radio.com app. Did it all last year at 11 o'clock. I went to mow my lawn. I threw it on, and it was CBS Radio.
Yeah.
What was going on?
Where
was Channing Crowder?
I know people were upset about that. So this year, the NFL has upped their restrictions, and if you're streaming on your mobile device at 11 when we go to network, you won't be able to listen. If you're on your PC or your laptop, and I think even like your iPad, you'll be able to stream on radio.com. I know it sucks. And listen, like I'm on my phone all the time, obviously, right? I'm a young millennial, but that's just the restrictions from the NFL. So unfortunately that's what we're dealing with. But again, you can listen on your laptop, on your PC, on your MacBook, yeah, all that good stuff.
But from 9 a.m. to 11, pregame is normal.
9 a.m. to 11, you should be able to, unless there's some issue with the app, you should be able to catch the pregame show. And then from 6 to 8, the local postgame show on your mobile device through the radio.com app. Definitely.
Awesome. I live in New York, and guys, our listeners out there, the Joe Rose show in the morning, unbelievable. The Hochman and Crowder show, I think it starts at 2, but I think it starts streaming at 3. Listen to it every day. It's fantastic. You can also get it on the podcast. So,
Thank you.
If I go on my car and I have to listen to freaking Jets talk radio, so get the radio.com, get the podcast. These guys are great. And we're really going to talk about the show today, but I do have one question for Solana before we get going.
Yep.
We're all a little bit sad. We lost, but like you said, there is definitely some silver linings out there. But before we get into the game talk, maybe you can cheer us up. It seems to me when I listen to Hochman and Crowder that there may be more fun when you guys are not on the air.
Oh, man.
So is there any stories you could tell us that might lighten our mood? We're not a rated PG show, so feel free to say anything. So if there's any stories or anything you can share with us, I understand if you can't, but if you could, it'd be cool.
I mean, there's no specific story. I'll just tell you this, man. Crowder, and people listen to, they listen to us mostly because Channing Crowder is just a huge character. And, Hawk is South Florida radio royalty, but it's Channing Crowder. We all know he used to piss his pants in games, and that really singled him out as a fan favorite down here, or which is weird. But when I tell you Crowder is who everybody thinks he is, just this over the top character, and they get on me for every little effing thing. Like when I'll be sitting in the studio, if I send our show rundown, a minute later than I normally do, Crowder's already busting my balls about it. Oh, Solana, I guess you're going to slack off today. Like, so the guy everybody thinks Crowder is, and again, like, he's a sweetheart. Like, he really is, like, a huge heart. If I need something, both of those guys are there for me. Definitely, and if you see Crowder on the street and you want to talk to him, take a picture, he would never, he's not one of these guys who thinks so highly of himself. Like, he's just a guy like you or I, and he just happened to play in the NFL, but they really, both of them, strong personalities, really, strong personalities, and it makes for good radio. That's why they've been so successful.
Hochman sometimes gets on you hard.
Yeah.
To put that lightly, is that how much of that is real? How much of that is for? Oh no,
it's 100%, 100% real. Like, it's not even really like a bit. Like, Hawks, when he says he has a personality flaw, and his intention of making relationships with people is to find out where he can really push the envelope and bug you until you snap. And he because we've worked so long now, it's been over a year, and I've known him now for 3 years. He knows how to get to me. He knows how to get under my skin. And when I tell you that that's his main goal in every relationship he builds, how can I get under this person's skin? How can I annoy them? He's a master at it. As you hear it on the show, he's nobody can argue better than these two guys. Like, that's their main purpose in life. They love to win arguments. It doesn't matter what they're arguing for. They love to win arguments.
I hijacked the show a little bit there.
I got to jump in with one question. As a New Yorker, as someone who knows exactly that type of personality, you named 97% of my wedding party. But the fact of the matter is, I'm a curious guy. I need to know things. How's Matt Roth doing? The Butch story is one of the most hilarious stories. Butch, the Audible. And I feel like that guy has gotten such a bad rap. I just want to make sure he's okay. If you know anything, if Channing talks to Matt. If you don't know, it's okay.
I really don't. I'm
okay.
trying. I'm really not trying to be to conceal anything. Like I'm totally open to telling you guys everything behind the scenes. Like I really don't know. Truly, I don't know. Yeah. But I can find out. I can do a little investigative work.
I want to pump Matt up. I mean, there's been such stories about him. If he ever, I'm pro Matt Roth.
All right, I hijacked the show. Sorry about that, Savak. I'm going to bring it back to Savak, and let's talk about the game we just watched.
Yeah, let's jump in there. I guess the real point of contention that I see is buzzing around a lot of people's heads, specifically on Twitter, is the pass interference call that never came. Now, we all saw this play. I guess I'm going to start with you, Alejandro. What were your thoughts on it? Do you think that was absolutely a pass interference call?
I mean, yeah. I don't think there's any doubt that it was a pass interference call. Now, whether that gets called in New England at that point in time in the game, I mean, that's really the argument there, right? Mm-hmm. Are you going to get that call in New England? Miami hasn't gotten that call in the past, especially on the road. So, I mean, they put themselves in a position to have a chance, and they didn't get the call when they needed it. And, and when you have Fitzpatrick, sometimes you're going to get these games. You're going to get 3 interceptions. Whether all 3 of them were his fault or not, we can make that, we can discuss it. I think the first one wasn't necessarily his fault either. The second one was a bad throw. But that's what you get when you have Fitzpatrick. You're going to get a 3 interception game, even though I don't think he played a terrible game. I don't know if any of you disagree with me, but I really don't think he played terrible, even though you look at the box score and he had 3 picks. Obviously, that's not a good look.
No, I agree. I think that there were positives and negatives to take out of his performance. I will admit I was expecting a little bit more. Yeah, I understand, of course, had the shortened training camp and no preseason. But as I was alluding to with the guys before we actually got started, I think they set him up with everything they possibly could have to get the most out of him. He brought in his favorite offensive coordinator, an offense that he knows very well. He's got a stable of receivers that he has familiarity with. I was expecting a little bit more out of him. But, Brian, I see there's something at the tip of your tongue. What is it?
Yeah, I disagree with Alejandro. It was a blatant call. I mean, he was absolutely mugged. And this is why the whole controversy started with the pass interference. And I'm glad there's no review for it. But this is where they have to be on. This is where there has to be the sky judge. You cannot have a game in the final 5 minutes, have an interception in the end zone that can completely change the entire outlook of the game and just let it go. I mean, he was tackled and the guy behind him got the pick because he literally tackled Gesicki. It's too high stakes of a time to just let something like that go. I don't know if we get the onside kick. I don't know if we get the field goal that we would have needed afterwards. But, to take that out of the player's hands on such an important play in the red zone, I would even mind, you blow a pass interference in the first quarter on the 30-yard line, no big deal. There's got to be a sky judge in the red zone. There's got to be a sky judge in the final 5 minutes. There's got to be something done. We knew that last year what they put in place didn't work, but that shouldn't end the conversation. We need a sky judge to buzz down and be like, hey, that was a touchdown, But, yeah, I mean, the other two – the second interception was absolutely god-awful.
Yeah, horrendous.
But, this is what happens. You get Fitzmagic or you get Fitztragic. Yep. And we got Fitztragic today.
Mm-hmm. Left us all feeling a little bit that way. But that wasn't the only thing. We saw our number 1 wide receiver, Devontae Parker, get hurt early. Now, I didn't find the details of that. Now, he did finish the game, 4 catches, 47 yards, and it was a short distance throw that the injury happened on. Jason, I know you were paying attention. What were your thoughts on it? Tell me about it.
Well, I mean, on Parker specifically, it was unfortunate that he couldn't finish the game. He started out hot early on. Overall, in terms of looking at what Fitzpatrick did, I do kind of take a lot what Alejandro said. It wasn't all bad. I do agree with what Brian said about the pass interference. It was pretty egregious, but I do think that just other things had to happen. So it's not something that I'm going to dwell on. But, I'm a little overall upset with just the way that the game materialized with the interception. The second pick, as everyone agrees, was bad. The third, what could you do? But I just didn't love the decision-making. I do think that the offensive line was okay. Wasn't great, wasn't terrible. But, I was happy to see the targets for Preston Williams and Gesicki, that they were looking at the right places. They got some penalties when they could. But a lot of work needs to be done on both sides of the ball. A lot of work.
Couldn't agree more. Drew, we have yet to hear from you.
I'm going to disagree on a lot of work on both sides of the ball. I mean, you held Cam Newton to 3 touchdowns.
Couldn't stop running him. Couldn't stop rushing him. They had to stop him.
Well, if the offense was putting up any kind of points, though, it would be a different story. I mean, they got a turnover. They got the ball back. They put the offense in the right place to win. When it came time the only thing that actually worked out right on the goal line was we had a really good cock blocking. That was it. We had some great Cox blocking. That's it. Only thing that worked in the offense all day. Fitzpatrick also had a few other catches that were pretty close to interceptions, so let's not forget all that. We're making a lot of excuses on 1 or 2 bet. We got some calls on interception or interference too. Mm-hmm. So the offense really needs to step it up.
Especially now you're looking at Fitzpatrick. The man's been in the league freaking forever. He's the veteran. But we know who he is, though. He's 50-50. Those are the kind of passes he likes to throw, and that means that our guys won't always come down with him. But I do like what you just said there, or what you guys were alluding to, the fact that we just didn't seem prepared for Cam Newton. And yet, on the flip side, the Patriots were very prepared for Ryan Fitzpatrick and Chan Gailey offense. When you think about it, I mean, they've got experience facing both those guys. They have experience facing both of them together. So a lot of money went into that front seven, and there was a lot of uninspired play aside from Kristen Wilkins. He was the bright spot. But Alejandro, what did you think of that, of their level of preparedness versus Cam Newton and the Patriots?
Well, I think I look at it both ways, and I don't want to play, I don't want to tiptoe on the fence here, right? But I do understand. On one hand, this is an offense you've never seen before. I didn't know what to expect from Cam Newton, really. And I think he exceeded my expectations. And I think Bill Belichick showed us once again, he has a whole offseason to prepare for a game, even if it is without Tom Brady, he's going to beat you in those small plays. Every time the Patriots had a short yard to gain or on a third down play, they got it with Cam Newton, one way or the other. It seemed that way, right? Every single time. And that's really what the Patriots are known for. Every time they set you up and they need to get that first down, it looks like they got it. And offensively, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, again, I can't stress it enough. You guys have said it. It's Fitzmagic or Fitztragic. But I think most importantly, somebody said, I don't remember who it was, it might have been Jason, that the offensive line didn't look terrible. I agree. However, I would say running the ball, I think you want to get more there, right? Like you brought in Jordan Howard, he got the touchdown. Matt Breida, we didn't see too much of him. So I think Myles Gaskin probably had the most production. I haven't even looked at the stats, but I think Myles Gaskin clearly got the most production today, and he's going to be the guy moving forward. I think just based off what we saw today, you want to see more in the ground game, I think. And preparedness-wise, I don't think the Dolphins, they deserve a D or an F, but they got out coached, and I don't think that's a bad thing to say. It's not an indictment on Brian Flores. Bill Belichick showed us, and I hate to say it because I hate the Patriots more than anything. He's Bill Belichick, and I think it can simply be that Bill Belichick had his team more prepared for this game.
Mm-hmm. I'm raging again, Savak. I gotta wait. I gotta first quick go back to the Parker injury. Ouch. he was having a really good game. He was our offensive weapon. 4 catches for 47 yards against their top DB. It also hurt Preston Williams because as soon as he went out in the first half, Gilmore went over to Preston Williams. So that, and this is, Parker looked at first quarter. We were like, yes, it wasn't a fluke last year. We're going to get a repeat. And then a hamstring injury, which is the other side of Devontae Parker, which, we've all dealt with for the past 5 or 6 years. So hopefully it's not serious. Definitely changed our offensive outlook. On the preparedness, I think they do definitely get an F. Did the defensive staff know that Cam Newton played a lot of years in Carolina? Because I saw the Carolina offense on the field today, and it looked like they prepared for Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. They should have thrown on some Carolina Panthers game tape prior to this game because it definitely didn't look like they did that. I was a little disappointed in, we went out and we spent a lot of money on 2 defensive ends who are more edge setters than pass rushers, and they were supposed to be the ones to stop Cam Newton from terrorizing like they did. And, Agba and Lawson were pretty invisible. Christian Wilkins had a really good game. Jerome Baker, outside of a couple flubs, he was all over the place making plays, but I didn't see a lot from Lawson and Agba. And we talked about it the other day that was going to be the key. We had to keep him in the pocket. He's not a great passer, but when the threat of running like he was, he got open looks. Alejandro brought up the running game, and that was our next topic, so I'll just weigh on that now. Yeah, that was also quite disappointing. You went out and you spent for Matt Breida. He didn't get his first carry until nearly the end of the second quarter.
Wow.
Howard, didn't. He got 8 carries. Gaskin led the team with 9 carries. I guess props to Omar Kelly because he was touting Gaskin all training camp, and he nailed it. I mean, Gaskin didn't look bad, but I want to see what Breida does. Breida had no receptions. Patrick Laird had a couple of receptions. We brought this guy in that's the fastest in the NFL, and we didn't try to get him in space. Serious misstep. And, we came into a game where against a defense who got ravaged in their front 7 through opt-outs and free agency, and we tried to win the game by letting Fitzmagic throw the ball when we spent all this money on running backs. If we would have if it wasn't for those 3 goal line carries, our average would have been about 4 yards per run, but we didn't. We ran the ball like 20 times, and Carolina ran the ball 42 times, and I think that's the difference in the game.
I absolutely agree. And that was really interesting. You brought up Myles Gaskin there because he did lead the team in carries, and he did seem to be the most effective out of the group of running backs. Drew, what did you see?
What I saw is just the offense in general. I don't think I can think of very many games that were won with 3 interceptions and 150 yards passing and 80 yards running. It just doesn't happen, and that's exactly what we saw. You cannot throw interceptions. The defense really kept them down. I mean, it's not like they had 400 yards of offense for the Patriots, but when the offense just constantly lets you down, you get the turnovers. The defense did everything they should. But you've got to run the ball the second half, and I don't know whether it was the play calls or Fitzpatrick checking out, because it looked a lot like what we saw last year from Fitzpatrick, which is a lot of checking out, going to throws, and his arm was off today. He was off that little bit. When you throw 50-50 balls off that little bit, you get interceptions.
It's absolutely right. Alejandro, care to weigh in?
No, I agree. That's something that I definitely noticed today. Fitzpatrick his arm just a little loosey-goosey, right? Like he didn't look like he had that oomph behind his throw, which he has in the past. Like there's been times where he'll come out, he's dropping lasers everywhere, man. It's such a good point. And listen, I totally understand, and I knew it was going to happen today after that first series. You scroll through the Twitter timeline, everybody's already calling for Tua, and I want to be realistic, right? I don't think they're going to Tua yet. Hawk already tweeted week Tua is coming. Like I don't think it's coming. I don't think it's coming. But to be honest, if he's healthy and this is the Fitzpatrick you're gonna get, and I'm not calling for Fitzpatrick or like I understand what this season is about. I understand the long-term goal here. So I'm really not trying, to put the cart ahead of the horse. But if this is the Fitzpatrick you're gonna get through week 4 through week 5, I like. And maybe it won't be, right? I mean, we've seen Fitzpatrick turn it around, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt. But if this is what you're going to get, this arm, these decisions, what's the point, right? Like, if you're going to lose, just throw Tua in there, seriously. And I get it. Like, everybody's doing that right now. So I'm not coming with a hot take.
Put in Tua.
But it's a legitimate it's a legitimate talking point, I think.
See, but you did say it now, so now I got to clip that out and tweet
it.
Alejandro Solana said, put in Tua.
The one thing I told myself, don't come on this podcast and call for Tua. Like, don't be that guy, because everybody's that guy right now.
Good.
Don't
You're
worry,
good.
I won't do it. But I did, I did think that was rather interesting, and I said something to that extent in a group chat. If we must be enduring interceptions, they might as well be at the hands of this rookie who's learning on the job, as opposed to the 14-year vet who just, I mean, you kind of throwing the game away defeats the purpose of putting the vet in the first place.
And let's not forget that interception or that sack he took. That was 100% on Fitzpatrick. He is a veteran. You throw that away. Everybody knows you throw that away. There were multiple players around him. He's not Cam Newton. He's not going to run through them. Throw the ball away.
I think the biggest takeaway, right, is considering how well he played throughout the last, 6-7 weeks of last year, this long offseason, the one person you were expecting to come out strong today, make smart decisions, and really look on point was Fitzpatrick. And he wasn't. So I think that's what's disappointing. It's not that, Fitzpatrick hasn't shown us these games. It's that he is the savvy veteran, and you expect of all people to come out smart today or to give you a good game of smart football, disciplined football. It would be Fitzpatrick, and it was totally the other way.
Yeah,
I think we all have to weigh in on this. So I'll go after Jason. This is just going to be huge with the Tua Fitzpatrick talk. We were hoping it wasn't going to start week 1, but Jason, where are you on this?
Well, I'm on the let's have patience party. I'm on that with everything. I mean, look, before I get on the Tua thing, there's one thing about Miami Dolphins football, and Alejandro, I really would love your take before we get on the Tua thing on this. The first and third quarter is always bad. It's always bad.
So true.
And I'm so sorry. I don't like indicting the current coaching staff because they don't have much data like a Gase coaching staff or like a Philbin yet or whatever. But you come out of the locker room. I played high school basketball. It's different. But my high school basketball always said the two most important times to come on the court is when you come out of the locker room, the first quarter and the third quarter. And that's anything. And I don't want to see goose eggs on the first and third quarter. So that's where I'm furious. So that's besides the point. So if you have any take on just the history or this decade or two of that futility, that bothers me the most out of anything.
Well, I mean, this decade or two, trust me, and I think I'm the youngest one here. I didn't watch Marino. Like, even the Fiedler playoff seasons, to me, I was 8, 7. So all I know of Miami Dolphins football, I say it all the time, all I know is just 6-10, 7-9 mediocrity. So you don't have to tell me about, like, you really don't have to tell me about coming out and just being a mediocre football team. Trust me, I know, and I still love this team. Don't ask me why, but I still do. And to your point, the first drive killed me because you had all this time to prepare, and that's what you gave us on the first drive.
Do a flea flicker.
I don't know if any of you saw the first drive of the Patriots. I know it's Tom Brady. I get it, but they came out that first drive and they got everything they planned for. That first drive should always be where you come out your strongest because you've had all the time in the world to prepare for that first drive. And then after, in the first quarter, you get the ball back. The defense changes, they adjust, and maybe your game plan has to shift as well. And that's where things get a little dicey. But your first drive, I believe it was 3 and out. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I believe it was 3 and out, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, right?
You
Like
can't go 3-1.
that to me is the most frustrating part.
I gotta weigh in on that, but we gotta circle back to the Tua thing.
I'm sorry. I'll get right back on the Tua thing. I was pleased again, like I said, with the offensive line. So I guess if my EKG of the Tua chart, I'm a little calmer on we could put them behind them, But this is not an indictment on saying let's pull Fitz out. Because remember, Mike Gesicki couldn't play in this league a couple years ago. That was a mistake. Remember, we have to calm down. So you have to see what Fitz does after a week. Go to the tape. Go into the locker room, talk up his guys, talk up himself, and see what he does at the home opener against a division rival. And that's when this will be a nice testament to Fitzpatrick, the coaching staff, and everybody picking themselves up. If we see something where we're seeing zeros, I don't know if the 13,000 people there, if they're all chanting Tua, you don't or do put him in at the moment, but I could understand if he's getting the arm loose this week and ready, if that's what you could understand. But I don't want to have to see it yet. I don't want to have to see it yet. But I'm understanding.
But just one more thing, and Brian brought this up when we were off air, another poor decision was throwing short on Devontae Parker.
Yeah, it was bad.
I mean, this is literally, and Savach has made this point, this is his offense. This is where he's supposed to be successful, week 1 or not. Everything was set up for Fitzpatrick. It's not like last year where you got Chad O'Shea and literally he's the only one that understands the offense. This was his offense.
That first drive, I want to go back to that. Like you guys said, awful, 3 and out. It went well, though. The first 2 runs, you do exactly what we wanted to do. You want 3rd and 3. And Fitz blew it. He rolled out. He had time, and for some reason, he threw the ball before Parker got past the line. I mean, you can't throw the ball a yard short with the covered Devontae Parker with Stephen Gilmore and assume Parker's going to break Stephen Gilmore's tackle. He probably could have ran those 3 yards, and that was awful. The other thing that was awful too. This wasn't Fitzpatrick of last year. He wasn't throwing 50-50 balls 40 yards downfield. He looked very limited on how far he could throw the ball. He wasn't taking chances. The only real 50-50 ball he threw was the Gesicki interception, but it was a 15-yard pass. The Tua thing, we got to talk about it. So my biggest thing with Tua was we have to get that O-line worked out before we even take the chance. And if you have a star of this game, it was that offensive line. Fitz was pretty much untouched outside of the time he rolled out, held the ball too long, and got sacked. The O-line is way, way further ahead than what I thought. But, I'm not ready to put Tua in next week against Buffalo. But, we're limited with Fitz. If he can't throw the deep ball and he's throwing the interceptions – I don't know how much, if we're going into next week and it's a lot like what we just came across. Great secondary, a running quarterback, some better talent at wide receiver and running back. So, if he has a repeat, I think this speeds up the clock on Tua. We have these wide receivers that can get deep. We have these running backs that can get deep. Fitz held us back, and if he didn't bring what makes Fitz great, that leadership, like when he runs somebody over, he just didn't bring that today. So if he's not bringing that, he's got the limited arm, and he shows up like he did this week in Buffalo. Yeah, I think in Jacksonville you have to, by the Jacksonville game, that's where Tua would probably be if it wasn't a shortened off season.
I'm totally okay with that. I'm going to be at that game.
Wow.
If we're going to be losing games and we're going to be throwing interceptions, get the rookie the experience. I thought Fitz could excel in Shane Gailey's offense and give us a chance to win. But if he's not going to do that, our defense held New England to 21 points. You hold any NFL team to 21 points, you shouldn't lose by 10. You should be a chance to win at the end of the game, and we didn't have that. So, look to that Jacksonville defense wouldn't be a bad place for a rookie to get his get his first experience.
I think my own personal disappointments about this game probably arose from my own expectations. I am a little used to Fitz. He plays his best ball generally when he knows it's not his job to keep. You guys remember when he was in Tampa Bay and Jameis was suspended for the first 3 games of the season, or first 4 games, and Fitz came out and threw like 400-yard games back to back to back, like that. That's kind of what I was expecting. Maybe not 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, but I was expecting
2 of them were, yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting some spark, and that was kind of what carried us through last year was Fitz's spark, that energy that he brought, and he just didn't have it in this game. So I guess I don't know. I'm not in a hurry to get too out there, but I am of that same opinion as you alluded to, Brian, that if that's the kind of Fitz that we're going to get, then there's no point in leaving him out there. Which I guess it can take us over there. We can look at this defense. There were a couple bright spots. Overall, though, a little bit disappointing. I think we had a couple personal fouls, right? Now, there's a little concern, especially since a lot of those issues, specifically in terms of the discipline, came from our linebacking core, which has long been an issue on this defense. Alejandro, what did you think of how that unit performed? And, the
linebackers, look, Kyle Van Noy was your big signing, right? Like the guy who you really brought in. Flores really spoke highly of him. They already have that connection from New England. He speaks my language. Like you heard Flores just talk up Kyle Van Noy. It was his first game, so I don't want to get too crazy either. I feel like I don't want to overreact to anything. Like I'm on the same page. Like I really don't want to overreact, but I don't think you got too much. I will say that there was a Jerome Baker. You just alluded to a couple personal fouls. There was that Jerome Baker penalty where I think it was Jerome Baker where there was a late hit out of bounds. Like those plays just kill you, man. Like that really kills you. It extends their drive. I know it was a first down, but it was the first play on that drive already. They pick up a nice little running play, and then you give them 15 or 10 extra yards. Like that really kills you. You can't let that happen. But defensively, I don't think there was too much to complain about. I know we already spoke about Cam Newton. How didn't you prepare for Cam Newton better? Brian, you mentioned watch some Carolina games, right? Like that's what we should have been preparing for. So, I guess you can poke more holes with their preparedness than necessarily any specific players defensively, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree more.
Did anybody catch Camus Gruger-Hill just straight up boxing from behind Jerome Baker?
He was going for the ball, yeah. I saw that.
I didn't see that.
He was throwing haymakers.
He was going for the ball. Tony Romo even said there's nothing to be said about this tomorrow or something like that. This is going for the ball. So
he did go for that ball, and that Baker personal foul was kind of phantom. The one on Edelman though was ridiculous. And Baker does this, man. He makes a great play, and then he's known for this. That Edelman one really, really hurt us, and that has to stop. It was nice though because I liked what we saw from Baker because last year Baker had 3 tackles for loss. I think he surpassed that today. So good for he was all over the field. Him and Wilkins were definitely the stars on defense, but you gotta stay composed, man. You can't do that.
If I would have told you going into this game, you'll hold this New England team to 21 points, I think that would have been a positive. Like everybody would have said, oh, okay, yeah, you're going to have a chance to win this game. So I think when you look at it defensively, and somebody mentioned it earlier, had your offense produced, had longer drives throughout the game, I think it was you, Drew. Like this defense obviously had been on the field less, right? Like obviously. So 21 points considering how bad the offense played, I think that's some positive takeaways for the defense.
I couldn't agree more.
Which is no surprise. That's why Brian Flores is so well respected, right? Like that's why we signed him, because of what he brings defensively.
Absolutely. And of course they will develop more as the season continues. What were you saying, Drew?
And that third TD was pretty late too. So it's not like it was 21 the whole time. They were right there. If that final interception doesn't happen, you're looking at a totally different game. The defense kept them where they needed to, but you just can't throw that many interceptions.
Agreed. Now, I guess playing off of that in terms of referring to keeping things where you need to keep them, we got to take a moment to pay the bills. And of course, our big sponsor right now is Manscaped. Big fan of their stuff. They sent us over the Lawnmower 3.0. That thing is incredible. As I've been telling everybody all week, you can use it to trim whatever you want. Trim your face, trim below the waist, trim your wife, your cat, dog, doesn't matter. But go on manscaped.com and save an instant 20%. And of course, get free shipping with our code FINSUP, Manscaped Pod.
So we're talking to an ex-Dolphins cheerleader. I'm not going to name any names, but she's going to be coming in as a spokeswoman for the Fin Addicts Network, hopefully. And when I told her about Manscaped, she told me, she's like, if the guy that I'm talking to doesn't have a subscription to Manscaped, don't slide in my DMs. So we're not going on second date. Today is absolutely key. Maybe this isn't the 80s where you're walking around with the with the big bush. You gotta take care of it. Get on manscaped.com. Use that FINSUP code. Get 20% off and free shipping.
Mm-hmm.
So Alejandro, now that you look back at the beginning of this discussion and Brian talking about lawn mowing, how uncomfortable do you feel?
Not at all. Not at all, really. I couldn't agree more about the big bush. Nobody wants the big bush, man. Nobody wants that.
You can't punch it into the end zone if the grass is overgrown, is what I like.
Wow. Yes.
That was great.
Wow.
We're sending that as a new tagline.
Please do. So I guess we can carry this lighthearted feeling now into any positives that we gleaned from this game. And of course, now we spoke about it a little bit. My specific one was the offensive line. Just like Brian said, if there was a star in this game, that was definitely it. They managed to keep Ryan Fitzpatrick out of trouble for the most part, and the only sack that he took was of his own doing. So, Alejandro, do you agree? Did you maybe see anybody else or anything else that stuck out to you as a positive? I know you came in with a very upbeat mentality already.
Yeah, well, after our conversations, my upbeat mentality has kind of dropped a couple notches. I'm not going to lie, because I know, like, you guys have honestly opened my eyes to some of the games or some parts of the games that I missed. But I will say the offensive line, I think we're giving them a bit too much credit just because the run game, again, just wasn't established from the beginning. Like and you guys mentioned it. Breida didn't get involved. Maybe that was just game plan. The game plan didn't go as they had planned. But I think Devontae Parker, before the injury, somebody mentioned it already. Like we have an established receiver. Like, I don't think there's any doubting that Devontae Parker can be the guy we saw last year. Whether Fitzpatrick's going to get him the ball, that's another question. But I think that's a huge takeaway. And again, the defense, like 21 points, you don't get the outcome you want. But we saw that once Brian Flores gets his personnel, they continue to add pieces. And Igbenogany is going to grow. Like, he'll grow into that role. The entire backfield is just guys that can play each and every way. And I think this defense is going to be legit. And that's probably my biggest takeaway from today.
Fitzpatrick did have a quote about the O-line and this positive. This is what he said about the O-line in the post-game press conference. I didn't really get touched a whole lot back there, and just the sense of their mood and mentality and the way they were in the huddle, it was definitely good to see. Those guys were into it, and from what I can tell, they did a nice job. And the rookie O-lineman, I didn't really get touched a whole lot back there. Just a sense of their mood. I think I'm repeating myself, but Fitzpatrick, he had nice things to say. And I mean, I don't blame them for not. They did open some holes for the running game. We were outside of those goal line carries. We probably would have been averaging about 4 yards per carry. You got to keep in mind, we had one O-lineman from last year's team playing today. Jesse Davis played right tackle. Last year, he played right tackle, right guard, center, left tackle. I think he played quarterback for a couple of downs, it was just crazy. But we had two rookies starting out there. I was psyched. A lot of people thought we reached on Austin Jackson, and I was not of that. So screw you to everybody that said we reached on Austin Jackson, because he did a phenomenal job today.
Yeah.
That blindside was great. And that's only going to get better. This is week 1. They didn't get preseason. The other thing, we had 1 holding penalty. We had no offsides. For a rookie young offensive line, that's amazing. So kudos to them. They were definitely the bright spot for me. What did Jason and Drew think about that?
Definitely, again, the line, very happy with. Defensive line, the spotlight on, first-round pick, Christian Wilkins. He's a hit, all right? So when people were a little worried, in the first couple of weeks of his rookie year, they were worried about a rookie. And this is a guy who won awards as a national champion. So Christian Wilkins was the star of the game defensively, I think, and offensively, again, the line, you have running backs who can move the ball. I was very disappointed with Jordan Howard. That was my number 1 disappointment, other than the interceptions, was the fact that, I hate saying this, he had more carries than yards.
He did have a hamstring, and Jordan Howard is not a guy that if you feed the ball to him 6 times like we did, I think he got 7 carries, he's going to get going. That's not how this works.
8 carries, 7 yards, not going to cut it.
Yeah.
But 3 of those were at the goal line. But you gotta work it. You gotta run the ball throughout the game, tire him out, and then Jordan Howard comes in late 3rd quarter, 4th quarter, and bowls people over and rips the soul out of a defense. So hopefully we see that next week when that 110 Miami degree heat happens. There's no reason to be throwing the ball more than running the ball right now.
Right.
One thing I was happy to see was also the fact that the defense was getting their hands on the ball. It didn't always transfer to actually getting the turnover, but there was a couple of times they swatted passes. They got a finger on it. It just wasn't quite enough to make the ball actually move, but that's what you want to see. We did get a turnover on defense. That's really what I'm seeing as a high point, is if you can get those turnovers, the offense has a chance to win. So if we get the running game going, and we got to figure out who was checking out. That's the one thing we don't know and probably never will, is who was checking out of the run in the 3rd and 4th quarter. We get that figured out, I think the rest kind of works itself out.
I agree. There's definitely a lot to build off of here. I think I still believe that a good foundation has been laid. And hey, if you guys need something to make you feel better, the Bucs are currently down to the Saints 24-17. Tom Brady has thrown 2 interceptions and win a game for the first time since Week 16, 2018.
How's that making me feel better? My only chance of winning any of my bets today is if Tom Brady comes back and wins. I get a parlay and I get money straight on Tampa Bay.
I guess I was hoping that you might have enough disdain for Tom Brady that it might make you feel a little better.
I have enough disdain for Tom Brady that I don't care if Brian goes broke.
So with that, I think our last positive, which also leads us into how we can kind of wrap this up, was Xavier Howard is back, right? Yes. He made 1 tackle. I didn't hear his name, and I didn't hear that. That's the best thing for a cornerback. He shut down his wide receiver. I wish we could have controlled Cam in the pocket and made him test Xavier Howard so he can get some of those interceptions. But his receivers were silent. The only places we kind of had leaks were we kind of flipped nickel, I think, midway through the game. Perry wasn't doing too good at the beginning. We had a couple open guys running down the middle of the field, but Xavier Howard was locked down. And we are going to be away today. A Xavier Howard signed autographed card based on the calls that people put in the hotline. So if you don't mind, I'm going to play a few of these calls so we can pick a winner. And maybe we can react to what they say. So here we go with the first call, unless my internet doesn't work here. I think we got it. Here we go.
Yeah, this is Mike Andrus from Elmira, New York. I think the defense just needs to get better at stopping the run. And the offense just needs to get used to working together, but it was nice to see that the offensive line was pass blocking much better than before. I think all in all, it wasn't too bad of a game. It was disappointing to see them lose to the Patriots because obviously the Patriots aren't as good as they used to be, but it was encouraging to see that game went right down to the wire, and Miami was in the game till the end. Fins up. Bye.
So that's one call. He touched on a couple things that I think we already touched on. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, he
Go
is
for it,
right.
Alejandro.
No, I mean, he's right. I think he kind of summed up. It's like he had already listened to this podcast before we recorded it, right? Like he summed up everything we've kind of said, and the offensive line. Like if they build on what they did today, like this is how you build a team, guys. I think we're all seeing it. That's why nobody's too depressed today. This is how you build a team. Draft your quarterback, draft some O-linemen, bring in some veterans. This is how you build a team. We recognize that, and that's why I think there should be some positivity today. Definitely.
The one thing I didn't like is we couldn't stop Cam Newton, but I still don't know that guy's name, the running back who's 5'6" and 175 pounds, but was just running through the middle of the field and breaking tackles left and right at will. Undrafted free agent, just a tiny little guy. That was a little concerning. I know a lot of that had to do because they were so preoccupied with Cam Newton, but I would have liked to see at least shut down the running backs. Does anybody remember that guy's name?
J.J. Taylor.
Yes. Yes.
Average 7 yards per carry.
It's always the back that no one expects. That's what New England does. Who don't you plan for? That's the guy who's going to hurt you.
So annoying.
175 pounds breaking linebacker tackles. What the hell? All right, here we go. Let's get another message going. This is the one that.
Please put two in. What are we waiting on?
Short,
sweet,
sweet.
to the point.
Right.
Anybody else? Anything more to say on putting two in?
No, I think we all aired that out.
Nice. Well said. Aired it out.
I think we have one more that we'll play. I don't know what I just did. Oh, here we go.
He broke it.
Last phone call. I need to get this a better system.
So you better go. I'm a loser, baby. Somewhere don't you kill me. So you better go. I'm a loser, baby. So why don't you?
So Beck called in. That's pretty cool. I didn't know we were that famous. We have Beck calling in. Pretty rad. He definitely heard the first part of the podcast. He missed the positivity at the end. But yeah, I mean, we lost our first game. I think the last positive we really got to look at is this is one of the youngest teams in the NFL. They got their feet wet. They didn't get a preseason. They had to go on the road. I mean, in any year, are you expecting to win on the road in New England? A lot of guys got valuable snaps. They got those butterflies out. Brandon Jacobs got some time. Noah Igbenogany got some time. The O-line got to gel together. I still have no idea why Matt Breida didn't get in the offense, but besides that, we got a lot of those snaps that were just that COVID stole. So I think that's a positive. I think it's definitely headed in the right direction. What do you guys think?
Mostly, I'm just happy that all the running backs averaged more yards per carry than Ryan Fitzpatrick. Positive. Forgot to mention that.
Except Howard, the highest paid.
So everybody else averaged more yards per carry, and Matt Breida even had the same amount of attempts as Fitz.
I will say, though, the most impressive run of the day was Fitzpatrick, the 2-point conversion. Of course it was. But
good decision. It was the best decision of the day to keep it and just tuck and run.
It was. Yeah, it was.
So with that, Alejandro, thank you so much for joining us. It was definitely an honor to have you on. Hopefully, maybe you can jump on at another time this year, and we'll be more positive. We can we'll fill you in on if that Manscaped line it got accepted from them as their new slogan.
Please let me know. It better. Like if it doesn't, I mean, they're dropping the ball. They really are dropping the ball.
Dropping the ball. You did it there.
Dropping the ball, and they're acting like Fitzpatrick week 1, right? Like if they don't accept that token from you guys. Hey, seriously, I appreciate it, man. You guys have a new fan in Solana, so I appreciate it, and in the Hochman and Crowder show as well.
Nice. Don't forget to check them out on radio.com, 560 The Joe. It's $7.90 the ticket, right, for the games as well?
For the show, yes, $7.90 the ticket, 2 to 6 p.m. In Miami, and on 560 The Joe. Dolphins Rewind show on The Joe, 560 WQAM, 8 a.m. on Sundays to get you hyped for the game, definitely. I'll give you guys a shout-out as well on Sunday.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys.
Even though we lost, everybody, fins up.
Fins up.
Fins up, everybody.
And we are back. Thanks again to Alejandro Solano for joining us. We had a lot to say about that. Per the contest, the winner was, he didn't leave his name, but the caller who called in and sang us that Beck song. We're hoping it was Beck himself. That would be where it's at, you know.
Where it's at.
You guys got that one. So a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure you subscribe to the Fin Addicts Miami Dolphins podcast. Available where all places podcasts are available. You know, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. We do what we do for all of you, so get on there. Leave us a nice review. Be sure to follow us on the Fin Addicts Network on YouTube, youtube.com/Fin Addicts Network. Follow us on Twitter at Fin_Addicts. And of course, the whole thing, the contest was all about the hotline. We love when you guys call in. We got several calls today. We're hoping to get way more this season. The number is 786-309-7558. One more time, 786-309-7558. Call in with your feedback, your questions, comments, concerns, whatever. Call in, make fun of our facial hair, Jason's lack thereof. Whatever you want. We want to hear from you one last time, 786-309-7558. And with that, we call it a show. Gentlemen.
Let's win next week, boys.
Fins up.
Fins up.
Fins up.
This episode brought to you in part by Thrive Fantasy, available in the App Store or Play Store, or by visiting their website, thrivefantasy.com. Use the promo code FINADDICTS when you sign up today, and you will receive an instant $20 bonus on your first deposit of $20 or more. Sign up and #PropUp today.